bring them. Of course, they are members of our sports crew here. Oh, did I unpack them already? I will bring them to the microphone in a moment. But let me quickly just play around with some items in the media before I come to my guests in the house. And together we'll be talking about how sports is helping us to, entrench development in society, or maybe you say the global perspective of development, and also see how sports have contributed to peace. One thing I've always heard, and which is usually repeated, repeatedly said, is that one very strong factor that unifies us in this country is sports, particularly football. You neither hear people talking about ethnic or religious leanings when we watch our Super Eagles. I wouldn't know whether it's still the same, it's the same sense. But I used to know that in those days, it used to be the story that, Nigeria is playing and everybody, even the believers in of all religions are usually unified in their prayer or their wishes or their requests for Nigeria to win. I wouldn't know whether that still holds today, but they're going to unwrap that for me on the program today. Essentially, there is a breaking news here. I think we should just look at it together. WAEC releases 2021 WASC results. Okay, it's in the Punch. West African Examination Council has released the West African Senior School Certificate Examination for Private Candidates 2021 First Series. Speaking at a press briefing Tuesday, head of Nigeria National Office, WAEC, Mr. Patrick Aregan, said the examination was primarily designed to help candidates seeking admission to tertiary institutions to reduce the waiting time for results and beat admission deadlines. He said, and I quote, "It will interest you to know that the examination is also an international one. This is the 4th edition in Nigeria, with the maiden edition taking place in 2018. The examination is primarily designed to help candidates seeking admission to tertiary institutions reduce the waiting time for the results and beat admission deadlines." The analysis of the statistics of the performance of candidates shows that out of the 7,289 candidates that sat the examination, 2,938 candidates representing 40.31% obtained credit and above in a minimum of any 5 subjects with or without English language or mathematics, out of which 1,396 were male and 1,542 were female candidates, representing 47.52% and 52.48%. Okay, so and then it says 2,195 candidates representing 30.11% obtained credits and above in minimum of 5 subjects, including English language and mathematics. You could look for that story, quite revealing about the gender distribution there. Okay, 47% and as against a 50-something percent. Quite striking, if you ask me. Okay, so there's this other one about the Kaduna kidnaps. 5 of 39 kidnapped students of Federal College of Forestry, Kaduna, regained freedom. It's in the Tribune, if you'd like to search for it. 5 of the 39 kidnapped students of the Federal College of Forestry and Mechanization have regained their freedom. A statement by the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, on Monday said they are currently undergoing a thorough medical checkup at our military facility. The statement disclosed the Nigerian military has informed the Kaduna State government that 5 of the many kidnapped students of the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, Afaka, Kaduna, were recovered this afternoon, adding that they are presently in a military facility where they are undergoing thorough medical checkup. Okay, so as a rider to that story, by the way, the headline here reads, 5 of the 39 kidnapped students of Federal College of Forestry, Kaduna, regained freedom. So a rider to that story, I saw a press release on Facebook, I guess, a few hours ago, where parents of the abducted students of this College of Forestry were, complaining, about the attitude of the Kaduna State government. They said that the Kaduna State government had not reached out to them. They also claimed that the Kaduna State government was, saying publicly that the government would not negotiate with anybody, whether they are bandits or whoever abducted these students. And they thought that that was unfair and unfeeling, coming from the government. So how do you reconcile this situation? It's a very, very strong, situation indeed. And may I ask the question, what criteria did they deploy to get 5 of the 39? Is that not a question? Is that not giving you a sense of dapchi once again? So if you like, you say deja vu. Is this the right way for government to treat its own children? You see, it has become a cliche, really, for me. They say that the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. Where are the leaders? In the camp of the abductors, in IDP camps, and the rest of it. And I guess we need to now start thinking about how to make, this cliche a reality of making sure that our children, go to school in safety. I remember that just immediately after the Chibok abductions, the government at that time came up with this program called Safe School Project. I remember I referred to that document. If you can go to Google, just type in Safe School Project in Nigeria, you'll find that document. And it talks about making schools safer. So most schools in the north of this country have been shut down. And I hear that the out-of-school figures have gone up again. When are we going to get these children to know that they can be safe in schools? Don't forget that a society where there's no education, that society is on the brinks. In fact, that society is on a descent. We would not like that, would we? Okay, it's still talking points on Splash FM here in the city of Ibadan. Okay, so let's come to the conversation around sports. Today is International Day of Sports for Development and Peace. And basically, we're told, I was reading through the website of the United Nations some hours ago, and I could glimpse some of these things. I'm going to bring them to the table. It's an opportunity. Sports is an opportunity to recognize the role of sports, the day, and physical activity in communities and people's lives across the world. And sports can help to play a role in building resilience and in the recovery, particularly from the pandemic. Remember that in 2020, especially from the month of March, the governments across the world, in their response to the COVID-19 pandemic, had started shutting down the economies, shutting down sports and all that. And sports is, apart from the fact that sports, engenders activity, fun, it's also an industry that commands, large sums of money, if you like, a huge load of dollars, in fact, billions of dollars. And it's a top grossing sports activities were shut down primarily and essentially across the world. And for me, as a sports lover, particularly football suffered a lot, where stadia were shut down across the world, and even many clubs had to, be asking their players to take pay cuts, render some, jobs redundant, and the rest of it. Are we going to be able to recover from this? Yes, we should be, because the United Nations is saying that sports will help us to recover from this pandemic. Blessing for Uwe and Ayo and Imashao are my guests. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Michael. It's great to be on Talking Points.
So it's also good to have you on my program.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's a great feeling to be on the show with you this afternoon.
You don't catch us on air at this point in time.
Okay.
This time
it has to be something special. Yeah?
That has to be something special. And that something special is occasioned by the fact that we need to talk about sports and its contribution to, the cause of humanity. Let me start with Ayo. You see, it's said that sports and physical activities help us to better understand that we are all human beings, and they can help us to build resilience and foster unity. A lot of times, like I said earlier, we used to say that the only time that Nigerians don't look at religion and ethnic leanings and all that is when sports is happening. Yeah. Tell me, is it still true today?
Absolutely. The fact that even just barely 2 weeks ago we had Super Eagles in Lagos, and we had about barely, I think, about 7,000 people in the ground. That says a whole lot. Listen, Lagos is obviously a cosmopolitan city that has people from diverse background in Nigeria, from different ethnic group, and ultimately from different religion background as well. And when you have that kind of city, now very, very joyous for the fact that they hosted the Super Eagles for the first time in about 10 years. And you had a plethora of people in the ground. That says a whole lot. It is for the basic fact of, number one, when football or sports generally is going on in Nigeria, the last thing that comes to people's mind is where you are from. That is why you have people seated together, perhaps even in the viewing center, not even in the stadium now. And once a goal is scored, they hug like they've known each other for years. It is passion. Sports itself is passion. Sports itself is actually an activity that, puts aside virtually every other thing but the moment when that sporting event is actually going on. And that is why it's always very easy for us to pretty much see this, being remunerated right in Nigeria rather, whereby you have a whole lot of Nigerians always looking to follow the template. It is natural. It's not something you have been taught while growing up, because you could also just relate some old experiences you had while growing up. Perhaps, while we're still watching football with the use of car batteries and all that, back in the days, you'd also realize that you were growing up with people you barely knew. Perhaps you've watched football game at places you never even imagined, and they welcomed you with both arms. That is because indeed that's the power of sport. It is a passionate, activity that really draws us all close to each other, one way or the other. It just finds its way of actually connecting us from different sides of the country, and boom, here we are all seated together, watching a live game. That's the power in sport. And the funny thing is not just something that is actually, peculiar to Nigeria. I think it's something that is actually cutting across the whole globe. And that is why I'm quite elated that, the United Nations have actually found a day, April 6th, to actually celebrate this. Sport is something beyond just ordinary. It is something just beyond just the action or the activity itself. If you sit down very well and look beyond just the action, obviously you see a whole lot more, behind that particular action itself. A whole lot more beyond,
the action. Blessed, I remember one time, I think it was a World Cup match. Sorry, if you are listening to me, I may be talking about football a lot. I think it was a World Cup match where the United States was playing against Iran. I can't remember, but I think it was US against Iran or US against Saudi Arabia. And the extent of the Cold War, that was going on between these two countries at that time was very, very hot, really affecting the balance in the whole world. The balance of peace and all that, and the economy. And you could see that the two teams filed out and they played football. So it tells me that football or sports generally can help us to foster peace in the world.
And unity, yes.
That's a very big language that the United Nations is speaking, and that's why you cannot do without sports.
Yes, indeed. And it goes on to show you the much of influence that sport has. You have given the example of maybe USA and Iran. Let me take you to this example. I used a bit of it this morning on Sports Bank. North Korea and South Korea, you know how much of enemies that they are.
Yeah.
At the Winter Olympics, the last Winter Olympics in Pyongyang, they presented a joint team.
Wow.
A joint force.
Wow.
To go compete. So you can imagine from that level.
So they say, guys, we are fighting, but this one.
For this one, we are presenting a common front. We are presenting a common front,
Wow.
common athletes, who is representing us as an entity, not as two different countries here, not as two countries who are at war with each other, but as an entity. That in itself, I feel like that's the singular example, that like maybe the most important example perhaps you can have about sports, fostering unity, fostering peace. And I look at it at how it gets to that point where it gets to unity. First off, education. It helps educate people, and from there you're talking about promoting peace, which comes with empowerment in that process. So it's really, really huge. You're looking at education, you're looking at engagement in the process, you're trying to foster peace amongst people, and then close straight off to empowerment. So for education, it's a long-term process. For sports, in giving education, educating people, and also look at the influence that it has in the community. We have been talking about this from the elite stage, from the big stage. Look at it from the community, like inter-street sports, for instance. You're playing against each other, for instance, or maybe a game like maybe chess, for instance. There's one person who knows how to play chess so well in a small community. The person rises up from that community, becomes a big star, shining light back on the community. And there are other young people around there who are saying, okay, this person came out from the same slum like I just came out from. And that they're looking at that point, okay, it could also be possible. And then it also brings more development to that community itself. So in a broad way, sport is that very potent tool that we can use to achieve peace. And I feel like that's what the likes of Olympics stand for, not even just the United Nations alone. The Olympics, they'll tell you that you're trying to bring together different countries from different continents to come together. The African Games, for instance, I've witnessed that myself, and I can tell you what it does in terms of trying to promote peace amongst athletes, amongst countries. The Games Village, you find athletes from everywhere, interacting. There's no, we are from this part and we're just going to, everyone interacting, making friends. That's just the basic of the kind of things that sports can do.
You see, that sense. I remember, I will come to Ayo in a moment. There's a very funny story that I thought we should tell. But you see, I think there was a time, I think it was one Olympics, I can't remember, where there was a team called Unification or so, I can't remember, where I think it was about USSR or something. I can't place my finger on it now, where they presented a team despite the fact that they were on the brink of breakup. I think it was about...
I think it has to be USSR.
Yes. So it tells you that sports is very strong. Okay, so Ayo, let me come to you. Blessing talked about the community, perspective. Yeah. I remember that sports can also help rivals to, sort out their differences.
At least for the time being.
For the time being. So there's a game of Ayo, and one guy and the other guy who are eyeing the same girl.
That's on the local side.
Yeah. Even ranging from local side, to the global scene, it is a unifying factor, and we've talked about that expressly. I mean, she mentioned North and South Korea, and need I even say that these two countries, for the first time in a while, because not until they actually came together to present the same team for the Winter Olympics, I think that was back in 2017 or thereabouts. After that, conversation started. And guess what? Late 2019, these two countries played a football match together in North Korea. Wow. Listen, before then, they usually play elsewhere, maybe in a neutral ground, India or something. But because there was already, a platonic ground from which they can actually build something on, that's why, some months later, they could actually host, North Korea could actually host South Korea in a game right there in North Korea. Listen, Michael, that is monumental. It is not something you get to see around very often. And that is exactly the unifying factor of sports. But taking it back to the, grassroots or the local scene, obviously it's something we've perhaps, had to, experience one way or the other.
I was waiting for the word experience.
If it's not in terms of football, it has to be maybe video games.
Or
card games, or whatever it is. But, some ways, even it happens amongst siblings, a brother and a sister, or an elder brother and younger brother, perhaps they had a bit of feud. But, just because obviously there's time for sports, or there's time for them to actually watch, their football match. Say, for instance, they are both Chelsea fans or they are both Arsenal fans. I mean, for the moment of our fixture, they have to, put aside their differences and obviously support what they actually, share together. So that's exactly the power of sports in this context now, because indeed, it is something that I think. To to a large extent, I think we are not really milking well enough in Nigeria.
We will come to that. We will come to that. I've tried to extract some thoughts from what you're talking about all the while. It's still talking points on Splash FM here in the city of Ibadan. I'll open the phone lines in a moment. I want us to feel your pulse about how to use sports to foster peace, development, and national cohesion. I'll come to that in a moment. And let's bring the COVID-19 pandemic into perspective here. I remember I said it that, earlier last year, I think around March of last year, and, stadia started getting shut down. Yeah. And, a lot of sporting activities were, just suspended. I observed that within that period, there were, my own reading really, within that period, there were lots of cases of depression across the world. People, dying by suicide and the rest of it.
True.
It tells you that sports can be a very good distraction, to really, maybe if you like, therapy for people. People who see games week in, week out, helps them to
maybe not just distraction, really social interaction as well. Promotes social interaction. So imagine for people who would rather go to the stadium to watch games, you no longer have the opportunity to do that. When you go to the stadium, you meet with people from different backgrounds, you are linking up together. You can no longer do that at that point in time. You are reduced to just talking to each other via the phone, maybe video calls and all of that. So you can understand where that issue of depression was coming from. The case of friendship wasn't there. Sports helps foster friendship, not just friendship. It leads to fair play as well.
Okay.
Some of the key skills ingrained in the sports person, you can easily teach that to a child.
Wow.
Togetherness, teamwork,
unity,
particularly unity, discipline.
Exactly.
These are the things that you can literally get
mental
from sport. Mental strength, which you can easily pass on to someone. You don't even have to be in sport. You don't have to do sport to actually understand these things. You can love sport and also understand that these are the values behind it, and you want to inculcate that into your daily dealings.
Okay, so let's come to that vital position where that Ayo raised earlier about using sports for national development, or if you like, nation building. I am still, I'm still at sea as to why sports, despite the fact that we are a maximally sports-loving country. Nigeria is a sports-loving country. Why has it been difficult for us to use sports, to really brand this nation, to really make things happen in terms of national cohesion? See, when you mention some sports, some countries come to your mind, and when there is, I see countries when their teams are playing, their governments borrow from the field activities on the field to to appeal to the sense of the people, to say, see, we are one nation. Let's do this together. Why has that been difficult for us in the country?
It's very simple. We don't have an ecosystem for it to survive. When I say ecosystem, it's something that actually involves quite a lot of things. But I think the biggest of them all has to be the fact that we haven't created an enabling environment for sports to develop to an economical factor here in Nigeria. Okay. I'll give you this example. In Spain, I think we got the report sometimes last year, it was in 2019, that La Liga, just a league, not the whole football system in Spain, just the top division in Spain, that's La Liga, contributes to 1.37% of their GDP.
Wow.
Okay, in figures, that's about 15 billion euros. Now, when you now add that of the Segunda division or perhaps all other football divisions in Spain, I'm quite sure
that's just football, not even sports on a general scale.
Now, that is because they've been able to create an enabling ecosystem. That's because they've been able to ensure that, listen, we want to do this deliberately.
Okay.
I think we are not doing that here in Nigeria. We are just using sports as a political tool.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yes. Listen, if we are ever going to really be intentional, I think we need to actually see sports from the angle of, or treat it with the mindset of a capitalist, not a socialist.
Okay, so now, which is very important.
Yeah.
Many teams, many sports, teams or sports clubs in this country are basically run by government.
Yes, true.
And government agencies.
A large percent.
In fact, close to 90% of them.
So that's a disadvantage.
Yeah, definitely. It would always be, because I'm sorry to say this, but it is the truth. Most government-run sport clubs in Nigeria, not just football now, in Nigeria, hardly have anything to show for it in terms of economical revenue, in terms of true development. When I say true development, I'm not even talking about just the finances alone. I'm talking about what you have to show in terms of player development.
And what you're even doing for the community.
Exactly, for the community, in terms of you perhaps going a step further to develop your own facilities. Listen, I would mention not one, about 3 private clubs in Nigeria. We've got Remo Stars, we've got Vandreza. These are privately owned clubs. And we can have, in little or no time, they've been able to achieve some things that I think are quite remarkable, that even some government-owned clubs cannot even boast of in 5 or 10 years of existence. And that's a telling factor that we know the right thing, but it's quite obvious that
the
we're not doing that
environment to do the right thing. But let me add to what he has said, Mike. He gave the example of Spain, for instance. I'll give the example of the United States of America. Their biggest sport is not even football. Football that's so rival everywhere.
Soccer.
It's not. They call it soccer there, but it's not even their biggest sport. You wonder why they have 4 major sports that are doing very well. As football is not the top. There's the basketball. There's the baseball league.
American football,
and football. 4 major sports. Now.
They've got
for a while now. They've got hockey as well. For a while now, I've been trying to look into why. When you talk about athletes who are highest paid, you look at the basketballers, for instance, before you start talking about the footballers. And I was wondering, how is that so? And I realized that they have been so intentional. And this is not a plan of maybe 1 year, 2 years. There's intentional planning that has been done over the years. Basketball is maybe just about 75 years old or thereabouts. It's not even as old as football, for instance. But the way they have structured their sport, they are so intentional with the development, such that from the primary school, to the high school, from the preschool to primary school, high school to college, there is a clear path for progression. Clear path for progression. Currently, the college basketball season is going on, and I want to tell you that the Nigerian Professional Football League, for instance, cannot compete. I repeat, cannot compete with the college basketball league. What it's commanding in terms of television, viewing,
college, in terms of financial remuneration,
in terms of financial remuneration, in terms of sponsorship.
Wow!
I do not think that there's any club or any sporting, club or whatever in Africa that can compete with what college basketball alone. Wow. I'm not even talking about college football. I'm not talking about athletics. I'm not talking about swimming. NBA. I'm not talking about NBA. Just college basketball. In fact, they call it March Madness.
It's just like this Principals Cup and the rest of
it. So there's a clear path for progression. That's the path that has been marked out from the very beginning, from preschool to high school to to the college, and from there, if you want to go elite, you want to go professional with it, there's a clear, marked out path for you to go to. We don't have that in Africa.
We used to have the Principals Cup. It used to be very hot.
Yeah.
We used to have all
the
this.
The Principals Cup is back.
Even the Napoga and Nuga games. Do they still have one?
I think Nuga games has actually been struck by COVID. I think they were supposed to have one last year, but not thanks to COVID. But I think there is a bit of substitute for that, though this one is not been owned or organized by the government. This one is HIFL. They call it HIFL. It also, it's predominantly just for football. That also has universities. Most importantly, I think those from the southern part of Nigeria compete, and of course, we have them. But that's IFL. But I think the point is that, listen, it is high time that the government, sat down and for a moment be intentional about sport development. And I would say this because for a fact that we have so many benefits entrenched in sports, apart from financial remuneration that we can actually generate from it, it is also a tool to develop our youth.
Okay. Now, I understand that about 35 or to 40% of Nigeria's population consists of people between 18 and 35. Yeah. That's a fat size of figures of people who, and I know something of a certainty that when you talk about sports, about 80% of that 35% really want to stand and say we're here together. But we have not been able to harness this population will not be able to use sports to turn this population around. In terms of bringing them to the fray, to also see if we could tap from their skills, tap from their economic, economic potential, and the rest of it. But I'd like to bring something here. Blessing mentioned that the US, for instance, has what you call the intentional planning, design. And she says that there's no clear path for progression. So how do we convince the people in government particularly to, rather than use sports for political tool only when they're campaigning and the rest of it, rather than that, how do we make them see sports in the real picture, the true picture of sports in the mix of development?
I'm looking at this in two ways. First off, from the government side of things, and
bottom
then
to top and top to bottom.
Exactly, bottom to top and top to bottom. The government side of things, and then from the community side of things, the parents as well. I've been in a situation where I've had to mentor young girls who are interested in sports, but somehow their parents are not even giving them the opportunity. Although I've always told everyone who have come across me, you have to always try to seek a balance between whatever sports you're doing and the education, because at the end of the day, if one doesn't work out, you have to follow on the other. So you can't be found wanting at any point in time. So you have to have to try to encourage the parents to give room for their kids to take to sports.
Encourage
parents. And then from the top to bottom level, that's from the government. Government should start seeing sport first as a business.
Okay.
And that is something that I feel like the Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Sunday Diary, has been talking about in recent months. It may not be in a full capacity. It has made some steps to try to see sports in football. They had the stakeholders meeting, I think, back in January or thereabouts, where they were discussing on how to make policies to start with. Policy making to ensure that sport is seen as a business and we can start making money from it. And then most recently, just last week, they had a forum for football somewhere here in Ibadan, where they were talking about how we can begin to see football as a business. And one of the things that was said at that point is, first off, we have to go back into the past and ask ourselves, when things were working, what did you do right to get it going? The moment things changed, what did you do wrong and things changed? That if you're able to tell where you faltered, you might be able to understand what you want to try to build into the future.
All right, it's still talking points on Splash FM. We're talking sports today, so you need to understand, just permit us to do that. Today is the 6th of April, and it's globally commemorated as International Day of Sports for Development and Peace. Let me come to the National Sports Festival. I have very interesting, memories about National Sports Festival. I grew up in a family that, used to deal in sports,
equipment.
So I traveled around Nigeria, selling sportswears in
merchandise,
venues where you had, Bauchi. I think it was Bauchi 1991 or so. I can't remember. I think there was Rivers 80. I think it was Rivers 88 or so. I went to all those places, and I saw the beauty, the collection of all the cultures, all the everything that you could say about Nigeria, the diversity. I saw it. Sports Festival is holding again in, I think, say in Edo State, right?
Yes.
Currently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where?
Finish your question.
There's no buzz. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. There's no buzz.
Well, the sports festival had been on hold for a while.
Stop, start.
Yeah, yes. The point is, I think we are just gradually trying to rekindle it. I mean, it was practically dead for about 8 years or 7
since
years.
2012.
Wow.
No, we had it in 2018.
April 2012, before 2018.
We were supposed to have it again last year. No, thanks to COVID. Of course, that's why it was eventually postponed till now. But, the fact that, it had that about 6 year spell of inactivity that probably affected, the buzz around it. And for it to be rekindled to the level where you're, of course, expecting the buzz and all of that, I mean, it's always going to take some time. I mean, the setback caused by COVID obviously didn't help either. But I think they are currently on the right path. One thing I think I have to give kudos to as regards the Honorable Minister of Sport, that's Sunday Dare, is the fact that he practically made this one of his pet projects to ensure that regardless of how long it's going to take him, it has to hold, and that's exactly why we are having it now. It is better to have it than not have it at all. And now that we're having it, obviously we're going to set a tone, set a pedestal on which you can actually build on, and that's exactly why they're having that. I think it's currently trading on Twitter as well, hashtag NSF or something like that. But having it caught on TV, at least for people to see and
Petrol Station, UI, Limit Building, Challenge, Olawale Shopping Complex, Monoton, Awolowo Junction, Bodija, Odusote Bookshop, Okebola, 0810-615-6116, tàbí 005-085-4922. Mr. Apes ní kẹ́ máa fọwọ́ yín láti dènà àrùn COVID-19.
Expressions without words won't have it any other way. Moments will feel joy. Been lost in the moment, the freedom. You will find that's worth celebrating. Bring your moments alive. Find your satisfaction.
joy in red grape, white grape, peach variants. Valletta sparkling fruit drink. Celebrate every moment. Another premium product from Intercontinental Distillers Limited.
We have come to the end of the cooking competition. World famous chef Big Shot will decide the best food.
Wow, he has finished the food. So, who will he crown winner?
And it's a tie, ladies and gentlemen. All the chefs have been declared winners.
Woo!
Ladies, what's your secret?
No matter where you come from or your taste, you can make great meals every time with Onga, the seasoning of Niger. Now made with locally sourced soya for more nutritional benefits.
Onga, Mama's helping hand.
Life is a mystery which can only be unraveled by the Word of God. And that's why you need to join Pastor Prince Will Afolabi of God's Power Evangelical Mission every Wednesday at 7:45 p.m. on Splash FM 105.5 as we unravel the mystery of life for great impact and success. Join us then. God bless you.
Neighbor, this your phone, I don't think I am since so.
Hey, now I tell 837 no. Even my daughter they follow me drag am and the camera clear.
How much you buy am?
Shaking the money, and if you buy am now, I tell fit summon you with 37 seconds of shopping spree for Easter.
True.
Oh yes, win 37 seconds shopping spree this Easter when you buy the new itel A37 smartphone with water drop display. Promo runs from March 20th till April 30th. Terms and conditions apply. itel A37, your best choice.
Do you know you can study in Hungary and Cyprus with ease?
Yes. The representative of Istvan University in Hungary and European University of Levsk in North Cyprus are at your beck and call here in Ibadan, Nigeria.
These schools are in partnership with the Edu Consort of Ruscon Travels and Tours Limited, and over the years, several students have gained admission and visa to study and get their degree by leveraging on this partnership. Ruscon Travels and Tours Limited is your link to study in Istvan University in Hungary and North Cyprus European University of Levsk.
Two world-class universities with campuses located in a serene and friendly environment. You pay zero deposit and service charge until your visa is secured. For more inquiries, call 0816-932-9152. Again, 0816-932-9152.
Our office is at number 53 MKO Abiola Way, Ajegbe Bus Stop, Ring Road, Ibadan, Oyo State. On Facebook and Instagram at Ruscon Travels NG. Ruscon Travels and Tours. Alright, let's go to Hungary and Cyprus for qualitative education.
mo ní adùn ẹ̀ lékè nǹkan ní ó rẹwà tó mọ nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀. má bá mi jiyàn sẹ́.
kí ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀.
wo ara tuntun tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ dá sí ara omi mu làkàṣẹ́rà. Báyọ̀ sọ wípé ó rẹwà gan. èmi sọ wípé ẹwà ẹ̀ kọjá bẹ́ẹ̀ àti pé adùn ẹ̀ sì tún lékè ká. ọ̀rọ̀ tá à ń fàmọ́ra lọ́wọ́ nìyẹn o.
ó yá mo wá kí n wò ó.
àdúró náà kí ló dé àwọn òde fẹ́ mú tán.
adùn èso ápùlù tí ò lábùlà àmì ìdánimọ̀ tuntun méjèèjì ló lù papọ̀ làkàsẹ́rà ti wá kọjá bẹ́ẹ̀ jẹ̀gbádùn èso ápùlù ohun mímu inú làkàsẹ́rà ìgbádùn tí ò lábùlà adùn rẹ̀ yàtọ̀ gedegbe àwọ̀ rẹ̀ sì tún fani mọ́ra jẹ̀gbádùn aláìláfiwé nínú ohun mímu làkàsẹ́rà ó yàtọ̀ mò ń gbádùn ẹ̀ gan-an ni o.
Splash FM 105.5.
All right, it's still talking points on Splash FM. Interesting conversations, coming down in the studios. Sometimes you are tempted to, continue this song of lamentation, but we cannot continue that on that route. So we need to find a way to make things happen. Let's take a call or two. 0809-155-1055. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, Mike.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to Talking Points. Mr. SB Aboduni, right?
From
Yeah, welcome, sir.
You see, sport, what you need in sport is a common sense of belonging. For instance, if Nigeria is playing Benin Republic, we all unite because our common enemy at that point is Benin Republic.
Okay.
So nobody wants to know If you pick all the 11 players, even from a single family, nobody is going to complain. Because the target is how to defeat the enemy. But in nation building, what you need is equity, fairness, rule of law, and removal of injustice.
And these elements that you mentioned are present in sports.
No. Hold on. Let me land.
Okay, go ahead.
What I'm saying is this: when you want to build a country, do you know you may not even know the name of your president if you are given your right? You don't even need to know whether the president is from the south or the east. So everybody is treated fairly, equally.
Okay.
So what you need to build a country is different from what is required if you are going for sport.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Bodun. Thank you very much for calling. All right. So there's a big challenge here. Okay, but we'll sort that out much later. I still have Blessing and Ayo here. Ayo, you know, for the last few years now, the richest man in Africa has been talking about is very passionate about buying a football club in England. I was wondering, there are so many football clubs in Nigeria, you know, some of them owned by state governments, that this man could adopt. Even if he doesn't outright buy them, adopt and then give them facelift, give them international outlook, and make things happen. So, Blessing was talking about this new sports minister, this current sports minister, making sports business, see sports as business. Why is it that those in government and those in the private sector have not been, having pally on how to make these things happen? They bring them together when they want to generate money for campaign. But why is it that we cannot do that? We cannot do that.
Well, I think, credit once again to the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport, Sunday Dare. I think since he actually assumed office, he has been able to create a roundtable whereby, like you said, the government officials and in this case now sport ministry and some private investors, let me use that word, in Nigeria have been having a pally. But I think that has only been limited to just individual athletes. I think they call that program Adopt an Athlete, whereby those private sponsors get to actually adopt an athlete.
Okay.
Towards the Olympics.
Towards that. It's actually meant to participate at the incoming Olympics, and that would obviously rub off on their own brand as well. Say, for instance, Michael, is being adopted by Splash FM, and of course you're meant to participate right there at the Olympics in triple jump. Should you win, obviously you come back home and of course flag our
ambassador brand.
Exactly,
and the rest of
Splash,
it.
you know what that means. But obviously we also sponsor you for the Olympics. So that obviously, is some sort of interesting move right on the part of the ministry. But when you're now talking about buying club sites, listen, the first thing you also need to realize is that they said most richest man in Africa is first of all a businessman, and no businessman would ever want to invest in a business
that he doesn't see value in.
Exactly.
Okay, let's attend to this caller. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You're welcome to Talking Points today. What's the name, please?
My name is Folari, calling from Eleyele.
Folari from Eleyele. Let's talk, Folari.
Yeah, basically, your guest in the studios is said it all. Blessing and the guys I just spoke now. We still look at sports as if it's one of those leisures, whereas at the international community, it's actually a business. And he said if he was on point, the richest man in Africa wants to buy another club, what billions of naira? It's not dumb. He knows what he's doing. There's a structure there that will bring a certain amount of money per time. Do we have those structures here? Even one of the things that don't encourage people to go to stadiums to watch the quality of the pitch. We see these things on TV. Like a comedian will say, they slide for Lubadon. So serious now. You can't, those things.
That's scandalous. That's a scandalous statement.
No, seriously. But that's the truth. You see the beauty, you see the ambience, you see everything, and you are like, wow, I want to be associated with it. I'm not sure we are ready. Although we are passionate, even when we say we are passionate, how many people put money into their pocket and pay for a ticket for one of their favorite clubs anywhere. And they pay the money they are supposed to pay. Not that they will go and beg and say, please let me just enter. I'll pay you something. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
So this is a business. We have to see it as a business. We have to work towards it. And then maybe the richest man in Saudi Arabia may be interested in investing in one of our clubs here in Nigeria. So thank you.
Thank you very much for calling. Folani there. Folani, okay. We can do that, we can play that game. Shouldn't we play that game? All right. Thank you very much for calling. Let's see if we can get one more call into the fray. Just one more call, and then the job would have been done for today. But before that one more call, there's a story here. It's breaking, sometimes. Sometimes you get to, have a feeling that something is about to happen in this country. And it has happened. Breaking, Buhari appoints Baba as acting IGP. That name transmits something here. Let me just read that story. It's from the Punch here. The President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired, has appointed Deputy Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, as the acting Inspector General of Police with immediate effect. The Minister of Police Affairs, Maigari Dingyadi, disclosed this to State House correspondents in Abuja Tuesday. Baba is taking over from Muhammad Adamu, whose tenure Buhari extended for 3 months on February the 4th. He has only spent about 2 months out of the 3 months extension. Okay, the Punch says details later. So you have a new IGP in waiting, or maybe I should say incoming IGP. Baba is the name. I like that name, Usman Baba. Okay, so let's see how things turn out. We'll be talking about, it's a developing story. We'll be talking about that sometime soon. There's one more call now. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
See, I'll just look at that. Whether it's Baba or must it be from the same stock again?
Mr. Boduri. Mr. Boduri.
Yes.
This man is in the rank and file of the Nigerian Police Force.
I know.
And he's also is a DIG.
Listen,
DIG.
Look at the previous.
Mr. Boduri. Thank you very much for calling. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay, so maybe we will use sports to sort that out.
That would bring peace,
Okay, so let's wrap this conversation up here. Blessing, let me start with you. What is that one thing that you want the government, particularly as a driver, in this nation, to do to make sports attractive, not just for fun alone, but for national integration and cohesion, and for commercial salvation for the nation? You talked about in Spain there, the contribution to the GDP and the rest of it. How can we make sports happen for us? Also?
First of all, for me, it's that the government has to see sports as a business, and the minister said that that's one thing that they've succeeded in getting Buhari to do to change. I think in the official, laws or whatever, to change from recreation and sport to business.
Okay.
That for a first. So for firstly, they have to see sports as a business and start working towards it being a business, and stop paying lip service to development. Stop paying lip service to development, and no longer see it as a political tool. I think from there, it's going to be a work. It's not something that we're going to do in short time. We have to have a long time goal what you're going to achieve, because the many years of rot cannot be undone in just about a few months.
Ayo, let me come to you. She talked about not having a clear vision about progression. How can we make that happen in this nation?
Well, we have to actually be intentional with it. Let's start firstly by actually ensuring that government hands off sports. by doing that, that sort of creates an ecosystem for investors, private investors. And once that happens, then I'm quite sure you can't put a naira, I'm just saying in clear terms now, or say $1 million into a business and not, want to ensure that business thrives to the point where you get your ROI, your return on investment. So by so doing, obviously, we are intentionally creating an ecosystem that indeed, in every sense of it, ensures that sports becomes a developmental tool, not only for people, but ultimately for our own economy as well.
Okay.
And but I mean, that kind of part will obviously rub off right there from a young boy on the street of Ibadan or a young girl on the street of Elisha, perhaps a 3 or 4 years old, that doesn't even know what he or she wants to do with her life, but some way, somehow, subconsciously, is already developing a bit of interest in sports, and then with an enabling environment for her to thrive, or for him to thrive, he or she develops into some sort of superstar here in Nigeria. That is because indeed we've already created an ecosystem for sporting development and perhaps as a peaceful.
Why did you have to go to Elisha anyway?
Ecosystem.
I got you now.
Elisha is part of the ecosystem.
I think I understand. No, can we change that? I was meant to say Apuma actually.
Blessings for where. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me on the show today.
Ayo Adimashaun, thank you for coming as well. There are members of our sports crew in Splash FM here. So thank you both for coming again.
Yeah, muchas gracias.
The job is done for today. Let's continue to make sports resonate, make sports happen to us and for us as a people and as a nation. Okay. In a few seconds from now, Ibadan News Update at 4 o'clock, and after that, Game On. Don't forget that it is the program that we've set up for you to make you enjoy yourself, get educated, get informed, and also win something for yourself. So it's a tripartite, package for you on the program Game On. Keith is already here. We'll sort that out after now. Get you to win something on the program. But I like to go now. Michael Olatunbosun is the name. I like to say that you should do everything within your power to make this nation better. Please do not dump refuse in the waterways.
From the top of the Fisher Building.